everybody. Welcome back to the Silver Lyming. I'm your host, Anne Desjardins. I'm also a survivor and someone else who has gotten well from Lyme and tick-borne illness. But I bring to you this podcast, The Silver Lyming, to share with you stories of others who have gotten well, because I know all too well how dark and dismal the space of Lyme and tick-borne illness can be. And so to have some tackling fuel is what I'll call this, to help along the journey, to give you some hope and inspiration along your way is really my main intent. I also hope to educate and inform those who are not as familiar with Lyme and tick-borne illness about some of the different variations that it can take in people's bodies and how it can manifest, because it comes in no two same packages. Everybody is different. Everybody has different co-infections going on, usually different underlying factors that make the illness express itself differently. Some people are sick very short periods of time. Some people are sick for a very long duration. And you can get diagnosed quickly. Unfortunately, it can take decades to get a diagnosis. But this is something that, again, I just hope to bring a little bit more light to, and hopefully, again, more of a positive light that you can get better. It might take every ounce of your being and then some to do it, but it is possible. And today I have another really amazing guest with me. Her story has stuck with me. This is the kind of thing that potentially nightmares are made out of, but then it's turned into something totally amazing. And she has really come full circle. And I'm just so grateful for you to be here with us today, Quinn. This is Quinn Smith joining us. And I heard your story through, from Facebook, but then you had also shared with me a prior podcast that you had done. And I just keep thinking about that and the magnitude of what your story will deliver to people. So if you don't mind, Quinn, please, if you could share with us a little bit more about yourself and how you've become involved with this thing called Lyme and tick-borne illness.
Ooh. Hi, well, I'm Quinn Smith, and actually, I didn't really know anything about Lyme. I thought that just like we are kind of taught that Lyme is just a, small little thing, and you get a bite and you might need antibiotics. You may or you may not. And that's just kind of the only thing that I knew of it. But I was sick for about 10 years. And for 10 years, they had diagnosed me with clinical lupus. My inflammation markers were very high. I had swelling of the joints. Now, like going back, nobody remembers me ever being bit by a tick or anything like that. So, as you know, the first thing a doctor would say is, well, were you around a tick? Or we don't have ticks here, their normal thing that they say. But that was never brought up. It was just your lupus and this is it. And so then years went on. I have 2 children, but I never really felt well. I wasn't nearly as bad as I had gotten, but I knew that I knew that something was wrong. I just knew that, they kept saying lupus and fibromyalgia, and this is how you're going to feel. But in my heart and in my soul, I knew that something was worse. I didn't, and then I went to live in Florida. My mom had moved to Florida, and I went because it was like, maybe she just needs to, move away and get everything, everybody was trying to figure out me, because at this point I was doing home health care, and one of my patients had black mold. Now I know all of this, but then I didn't know. Right. And, so then I was having like some psychosis, which then turned it into, is this mental? And so I had to go through that ride too. So I was put in a psych ward 2 times. And both times they kept saying, we're not really putting this together unless she's just really under, a load of anxiety, but we're not really seeing mental illness here. But she does have the psychosis. Well, now I know, that it was the black mold and that I had Lyme, but then I didn't know. So then when I moved to Florida in, I think it was like 2012, somewhere around there. And I stayed there for like 2 or 3 years. And same thing, I was seeing a few doctors down there. I didn't have any health insurance down there because they didn't have help with health insurance. I was just doing the home health care because I couldn't work like a full-time job. I wasn't well enough for that, but I still wasn't as, I just didn't know.
Yes.
Well, I have lupus. And then they were giving me steroids, which now I know was making me worse as well.
Yeah.
So it was a all-around misdiagnosis, the whole thing for years. And then finally I got so sick in Florida that my mom said, you need to go back to Maryland so you can get health insurance, be admitted, or whatever they need to do. Now, at this point, I had some lesion, they were blister lesions that were showing up on my skin.
Mm.
And I was just my brain didn't feel right. I was not right. My brain was kind of all over the place. And I was like, this is so much more, but what is it? What am I going to do? How am I going to find this out? But you can't even think that much because your brain doesn't work. So you're trying to think, but your conscious is telling you that it's something bad, something's very wrong. But when you go to the hospital or you go to a doctor and they look at you, and say, it can't be that, or it's not this, it's just your lupus. That's all I ever heard. It's just your lupus. It's just your lupus. So that's kind of how I live my life. It's just lupus. So when I came home from Florida and I wasn't well, I was only here for probably about 10 days, almost 2 weeks. And all of a sudden my arms went completely numb. I couldn't feel anything, my arms. And I kept saying it was like a sense of touch. Like I lost my sense of touch. Like I could grab a steering wheel, but I couldn't feel it.
Okay.
And only by the grace of God did I get to the hospital that night, because I truly don't even remember getting there. Right now, I don't remember. I don't know if I went in the door or if they found me. I still don't know. But my first memory is them saying, spinal tap her. And they did. And he said, your white blood cell count is the highest I've ever seen in a living person.
Oh, my.
And yes. And we are transferring you out of here to Baltimore to a different hospital immediately. I said, oh, I was so sick. And I remember part of my head was swelling. It was just wild. And so then they amboed me directly out of there. And by the time I got to the next hospital, my face had fell with the bilateral Bell's palsy just in that time. So then, because they don't really know, they think stroke. So they rushed me up to the neuro floor thinking that I'm having a stroke.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so then I was on the neuro floor. My heart rate was dropping to in the 50s. And so then I had a nurse and she was kind of straddling me. And then the next memory I had is waking up in an ICU with my dad there. And that's when I knew that I was sick. I knew I was sick, but I knew I was very, very sick at that moment. And then they had infectious disease come in and did another spinal tap. And then that's when he said, she's full of Lyme disease, full of it. And like I was saying, it was almost like a sense of relief, because when you don't know, you don't know. And, you're thinking that all of these things that we've been taught are the worst. Is it a brain tumor? Is it this? Is it that? Is it this? And they say Lyme, and you're like, huh, okay, we get some antibiotics. I'm going to get on out of here.
Yeah.
No, I had no clue what I was in for. And so they immediately started me on the first one. I want to say it was ceftriaxone at first. And so they started me on that, on, a regular regimen of that. And of course, in Western medicine, this is all you need is this amount of time on these antibiotics and you should be fine.
Yeah.
Okay. So they did the antibiotics and, I wasn't fine. I was still declining. I wasn't getting better. So then I was in ICU for about 7 to 9 days or something when they said, and then I was sent down to the step down unit. And when I got to the step down unit and they came to help me get up because I had not been stood up or anything in all those days, I couldn't walk. I had my legs didn't work. They were like weak and my whole body convulsed like 24/7. I just shook. I couldn't stop shaking. I was just convulsing. And so, nobody really knew what to do, but just give her something, give her something, give her meds, give her meds, give her meds. And at one point, I was on so much medication because they just kept, treating the symptom. So they would keep me drugged up to stop convulsing or, stop this or stop this. And so then they kept calling it, Lyme meningitis is what they were saying that I had.
Okay.
I had 12 lesions on my brain. Once they started looking at the MRIs and all of that, I had 12 lesions on my brain. Now, granted, at this point, I still have no clue what's going on. I didn't even know that I could get that sick from Lyme. So I'm thinking that maybe they didn't know what they were doing. I don't know. So they sent me to one of a very high-end rehabilitation center, where they would send gunshot wounds and that sort of thing. And they sent me there to try to learn how to walk and try to get back, to be able to take care of myself at least, and maybe my children. But at that point, I couldn't even do anything. And I was there for 30 days. And after the 30 days, then they said, no, you have to go to long-term care. And then that's when I was sent to the nursing home. And I was sent to the nursing home, and I was there for 20 months.
That's wild. And you mentioned too, you have children. How old were your children, and how was that going with them at this point?
So I have 2 children. I have a daughter and I have a son. And at the time that I was in the nursing home, she was around 16-ish and he was around 10, somewhere around there. He went to live with his dad in Florida where I was. So he stayed with him. And then she stayed with my sister so that she could stay in her high school.
Oh.
And then again, nobody really knew what was going on from day to day. So we didn't know it was going to be a 20-month thing. We were thinking it was just okay, until she gets better kind of thing, because nobody had no clue. And then, days are going by and nobody really knew how to treat me, like I said, other than add more medications to calm things down, which then just kind of comatose me in a way, because I was just kind of laying there. Other than therapy, I would say that the therapy, I think, really did help me because they really truly knew something was bigger, and that they were really trying to help me. I do believe that. And I had speech therapy because I had the Bell's palsy, bilateral, so my whole face fell. And then I had the lesions. So I had the speech therapy. And then I had occupational therapy and I had physical therapy every single day.
Wow.
3 hours a day I had therapy.
Wow.
So, as time had gone on and you get more and more desperate because you're just so sick. And, it's so hard to talk to people about it because, you don't get it until you get it, and you truly, truly don't. And, when you say that to people, it's truly, it's something that until you get it, you really, and you try to get help from doctors or social workers or, anybody, and nobody knows about this. And so they either shove you off as, and I have no idea how to help you, or they shove you off as, no, that's not Lyme. You must have something else. Or, you just kind of get pushed around because nobody knows what to do. And the doctor at the nursing home, he straight up said, I've never treated a Lyme patient, which he probably has, but they just didn't know. But he said, I have never treated a Lyme patient, and I don't really know what to do for you. That was the doctor that I had. I'm like, oh boy, this is going to be, whew. And so, right, I'm really flying alone on this.
Yeah.
And so then as the months and time went on, I think that the first crack in the healing part that I had was getting into some of the Lyme groups on Facebook. When I came to enough that I could use the phone, and go online. And some of the Lyme groups is how I started to kind of understand that I was in a much bigger web than I even could dream of. So even though it was, oh my gosh, I can't believe this, it was also a relief because I finally knew what beast I was fighting. It's hard to fight one when you don't know what you're fighting.
Yes.
And so then learning some things in there, like, about detox and, just kind of in some of the groups getting support in there and what questions to ask, and that I needed to see a Lyme literate immediately. At that time, I had no clue what that even meant. Go to the doctor and you get better. I couldn't fathom that I had to go to a special doctor, to get this taken care of. Why can't I just get it taken care of? Because I had no clue. And when I found a Lyme literate doctor that was not too far from the nursing home that I was at, and of course only took cash. So my dad came and went with me to the nursing home, and he paid, I don't even know how much money, but it was a lot that first visit. But he sat down and he explained Lyme and co-infections. I didn't know anything about co-infections at this time. I knew nothing, but he sat down and he really broke it down, to us. And he said, I'm going to do everything I can to get her well. When he took about 18 vials of blood that day. I was in a wheelchair. I couldn't stand for longer than about 30 seconds at that time. My legs would just shake out of weakness, and I convulsed all the time, so I couldn't stand. So I was in a wheelchair, and he said, this is going to take some work, but it's okay. And so when I got the blood work back, I had over 10 positive bands. And I had old Lyme and new Lyme. Mm-hmm. So he said, I could have been reinfected and didn't know. I could have been old and then it came to life. It could have been a lot of different things. But he said 10 positive bands, you're pretty sick.
I don't know if I've ever heard anybody say that many. Sorry to cut you off for a second, but I don't know if I don't think I've met anybody who had that many before.
I know. I still have the paper. I'll send it to you from Stony Brook Lab. And he told me, he was like, you're going to want to keep this. Yeah. And I still have it from the Stony Brook Lab. It says 10 positive bands. I know. He said the same thing. And I had babiosis that came back too. So of course, I didn't know anything about that either. So, at the nursing home, like I said, they didn't know anything about Lyme or how to treat it. They were just kind of keeping me sedated, if you will, I guess. And he said, are they going to allow me to work with them? And I didn't know that there was even going to be a question of that. What do you mean?
Exactly.
What do you mean they can't work with you? What's wrong? And then, he kind of broke it down for me a little bit more about the CDC and that thing. I'm like, oh my gosh, of all things, this is what I... And but thank goodness he wrote down, all of the things that he wanted to do. And when he talked with the nursing home, they did fight him a little bit for the amount of antibiotics because, it was so much for so long. As he put me on ceftriaxone and Flagyl together. Okay. And I want to say it was like 9 months, and then we did like another 4, like we took a break to see, and then we did like another 4 or 5, somewhere around there. But the nursing home fought more about that, the length of the antibiotics, than anything. Like, this is unheard of. Why, and once I started working with the Lyme literate doctor, the only way I can really describe it is that it was like a curtain. And the curtain was like closed, and like it just started opening very, very, very slowly. And very slowly did I see myself on the other side of the curtain, because I didn't know who that person was. I knew that I was Quinn, and I knew that I was sick, but I didn't know where that other Quinn went. And I remember thinking, this is it. Like, when they did come in and they talked to me about my last rites, because my labs, everything was I had gastroparesis, my intestines were paralyzed. My bladder stopped working, so I had a catheter. Thank goodness they wanted to do a permanent surgery in my bladder that would have changed a whole bunch of stuff. And thank God, for whatever reason, I didn't do that. And I said, no, I just want to wait and see if I can, get better. Thank God, because that would have been permanent. Oh my goodness. Yes, and my bladder stopped working. I had the lesions on my brain. I had, my gut. Nothing was working that way. I had not had a bowel movement without an enema in a year, over a year.
Oh my.
Mm-hmm. So once that curtain started opening a little bit, and I started kind of reading a little bit more, and I was, watching a little bit of videos and just kind of starting to try to understand what I had so that I could try to fight it. And I said, if I die fighting, at least my kids can see that. They can see that, well, she did everything that she could.
Yes.
And you get this sense of like desperate urgency. I don't even know what it is. Like, you would just do whatever because you're so sick, and you're like, oh, okay, eat that. Yep, I'll do that.
Yes.
Yep. I'll do that. And I ordered a foot detox machine, and told the nursing home I would hide in the nursing home, and I told them that I was soaking my feet in Epsom salt, because I couldn't tell them that I was detoxing. I would hide in the bathroom and give myself enemas every day.
Oh.
And because that's how desperate, I was. And I knew that I had to do some of these things just to get things moving. Once I started understanding, I need to get the bad out and the good in, because the herxing from all of that, man, I was very, very, very sick. But I just knew that I had to get things moving. And then I guess it was probably about a little over a year in, was like one day I woke up. Oh, and I didn't have a period either for over a year. So I didn't have a bowel movement and I didn't have a period for over a year, both of them.
Wow.
And the same day, like a year later, they both happened the same day. Huh. And it was the second day after I detoxed. I detoxed. That's why I was so adamant about detoxing, because I was like, no, it really does work. This is what happened. Yeah, I went to the bathroom and started my period. Like, I guess I must have like opened a pathway or something.
Yes. Yeah.
But just, and then I started, you know, I learned about colloidal silver and I got that. And so I started taking that on top of, I started refusing their meds, and I was filling with like vitamins and supplements that I was ordering to the nursing home and hiding. And then I would refuse, you know, well, I don't need that, or I don't need this. And I would take this. So oh man, I really, really did just fight to live. I really did. I can say that I actually did fight to live, because there was days that I thought, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm taking this out. But it all worked out in the end. But, you know, I'm not going to lie to you. I spent a lot of time with just me and Jesus in the four walls, many, many, many days and hours, just us. And, you know, and I begged and begged and begged, you know, just heal me or take me. Just this limbo of being deathly ill is just, I can't. If you're going to, just do it, please. And then, you know, like I said, very slowly, but even that was kind of scary, because, you know, is the curtain going to open all the way back up? That, you know, I'm going to be her, or, you know, am I going to be the same girl, or am I going to be this, you know? I don't know. I never knew. And I just, every single day, just kept trying to do more and more and more. And then in therapy, we would stand and then I would stand a little bit longer and then walked a little bit longer. And then, you know, we did therapy for that much longer. And 20 months later, and then I left there, and my mom moved back from Florida, and she and I moved with her, and I just kept doing my vitamins and supplements and detoxing and learning. I think half of the battle is learning.
Yes.
That was a huge part of knowing exactly what I had, exactly how to fight it, what to do, learning how many other people were just like me, you know, and it wasn't just me, because you feel very isolated because, you know, you don't know. You know, when you wish that it was cancer because you would get some acknowledgement, that's when it was scary.
Yes.
You know, I wish this was just cancer because I would get some respect from my family, or, you know.
Yes. They would actually see me as somebody who needs help. Yes.
Yeah. And that's so sad, because it is it is a beast. It truly is.
Yes. I've had people on here that say it's worse than cancer. Like, people who have cancer have said, this is worse, much worse.
I've heard that too. And, you know, and I think that if we could get to a point where everybody could not every, you know, but it could be a little bit more, would know, like you were saying, you know, if it was like these are the symptoms, we need to check them for Lyme or tick-borne, you know, and it's not in the normal lab panel. And I think that it should be.
Wholeheartedly.
When someone walks into the ER with any type of symptom, really. I mean, because let's just be honest, Lyme can show up any kind of way. And I think that's that's probably the curse of it all. Well, one of them, but because doctors look at you and go, oh, well, you can't have Lyme because you don't have the rash.
That's right.
That's the famous line. You don't have the rash.
That's right. And let's remind people, how many people get the rash?
Yeah. Right.
35% of people get a rash. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Exactly. I had 10 positive bands and never had a rash. So
you also have a nice head of hair. So potentially your rash was under your hair, like that's the other thing. It's like people don't understand. Like it could be in a part that you just don't see. Like,
yeah,
maybe you had one, but who knows? Yeah. You'll never know. That's
the whole part of it is you truly never know.
That's right. Because they're
the size of the ticks. The size of the ticks are just, and I have freckles, so who knows?
Correct.
I could have had one. I don't know. And then, then learning, that mosquitoes can do it. Mosquitoes can transfer it. And some people can tell their Lyme story and they can say, this is when I had it. This is the day I got the bite. This is the da-da-da-da-da. I have none of that knowledge. I don't know anything. I have no idea. I know I have old, new, and I was sick for years. But no. So then I just continued on that path of detoxing. I drank 2 gallons of alkaline water every day in the nursing home because I kept asking in the Lyme groups, like I kept saying, like, I'm so thirsty, like I can't get enough to drink. And they would say, probably because your body's trying to detox, it's trying to get some of that stuff out. So I did. I drank 2 gallons. And I remember the very first time that I walked down the hallway in the nursing home. And I remember getting to the end of the hallway and I was like extremely fatigued. And I actually kind of got upset because I was like, I can't even walk down a hallway. But then I thought to myself, girl, you just got out of the bed.
Exactly.
You're okay. But I think being at that time, I was in the nursing home when I was 36 and I was the youngest person there. And I am an empath. So I'm like the one that wants to love and take care of everyone, so in the nursing home, once I started coming to, and I would go and sit in my wheelchair and I would try to take care of people and say, no, you can't, you're the patient. But you can't do that.
Got to worry about yourself.
There was time. Yeah. There was so many times that it was truly terrifying, but coming out on the other end and being able to tell the story and put the story together is what, all the puzzle pieces that I had no idea, such as the black mold and the black mold that I had psychosis, which is probably why I ended up in the psych ward, because the Lyme was probably going off, which I had no idea. And it's such a shame because that could have been caught all those years ahead. But who knows, God puts us on paths for all different reasons. So who knows?
Very much so.
Who knows? But I
sit here and I'm thinking about how many people you've probably educated just coming through that facility and how many people have learned now that that's what Lyme could look like. And not that you needed to be the guinea pig or the symbol of what that looks like for people to learn from, but it may be some consolation in what has happened.
Yeah. Hey, if I could have taught some, if they learned from that, then so be it, because now somebody else could come through and maybe somebody could say, hey, you know what? That's not a stroke. That could be Bell's palsy. Maybe, or whatever.
Right.
Hopefully something will trigger, the guy, the doctor that was the doctor that was over me at the nursing home, he thanked the Lyme literate doctor for all of the things he learned. So that was like, now that I know the whole story of Lyme and I know how hidden it is, I know all of the things, that was great to see, because he probably sees it a lot and has no clue. And maybe now he does.
That was one of my questions, was how that staff then reacted, because again, since they were hesitant to let you have antibiotics for as long as the Lyme literate doctor had given them to you, what was their reaction then at the end when you left in a much better state? Were they, obviously, I think they would be believers then, or?
Yeah, I think so. And he was very much like about wanting to learn more, and, that he was going to, do some more research, and he was more on that end of it. A lot of the physical therapists were the same way.
Wonderful.
And very much like, wow, this is Lyme. And this could be, so-and-so's issue or so-and-so. So that was really good too, because they learned a lot from me, they would write notes back and forth to the Lyme literate doctor. Like, today she's convulsing, this, or today her leg isn't moving, or whatever it was.
Yep.
They would go back and forth. And so they learned directly from him as well. So that, hey, if one person can learn something, if I can save one person, then hey, that was worth it for me.
That's right. That's right. Because you know what it would have been like to be that one person, right? And so it's like, oh, thank God someone else has something that they can share with me about this to help me to get to where I need to go. And just listening to you talking about that was giving me chill bumps, because I know how much that's helping people. And the fact that they're open and willing is really all we can ask for from medical providers in this current state, is to just be open and willing to accept that it could possibly be Lyme.
Yeah,
like,
that's all
heaven
we're
forbid
asking.
it is, what if it is? It's okay if it is. There's not necessarily a recognized cure, but at least that person has some answers and they don't feel like they're crazy, and they're not saying, I know I'm dying. I know something's really systemically wrong. It's not lupus. It's not fibromyalgia. It's not chronic fatigue. It's not this, but something's really wrong. Okay, good. Like, just knowing that, as you were saying, is like such a sense of relief. Like, thank God someone has an answer for what is happening to me. And that alone, I think, can help people in their healing process, just getting that,
absolutely.
And so it's so important.
Because when you're, I think too, Lyme has a lot to do spiritually, I think too, because it takes you to a place of spirituality because you're so desperate, yet you can almost feel God with you at the same time. And yet you're begging for all of these things. Like, please just show me what to do. Give me an answer. It doesn't matter what it is, just show me. And if we could find a way to avoid all of that in a test that actually worked, it wasn't from the dinosaur ages. If we could just have a test that actually worked from the beginning, let's just say that something like that happened to me before that 10 years of suffering. Let's just say one of those hospital visits, they did a Lyme test. Who knows? I could have avoided that entire ordeal. Granted, I totally believe that that God has our way and that's it. But I'm just saying, like, just imagine how many people from here on out we could, just by a simple test that, like I said, actually works. But
I thought this, if they could put it into people's yearly physical, right? Like, we would just save so many problems and money and lost time and pain and suffering for people. And again, I think about not just you as a person and what you had to experience, but your family, your kids, like how hard and how much more taxing on you that is having those other people in your life, like being a mom and not being able to be there for your kids. And like that probably hurts on so many levels too. Like it just,
that was bad. That was really, really, really bad. So then, then they put you on a, mental watch because you're so, upset and depressed and all of that because, my daughter's turning 16 and, all of these things are happening and she's going to homecoming and I can't even, lift my body up enough to hug her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was just, and I'll never forget one time, this was during the early part of the whole thing. So I was at the nursing home, but I think it was the early part of it. And they had to call 911 because my heart rate dropped out, I think I was convulsing and I had blacked out. It was one of the things that they had to call 911 and they did. And my daughter had called my cell phone. I still had a cell phone. And so they would keep it by the bed. So when the AMBO answered it and he's like, it's okay. Everything's fine. We have your mom. She's fine. We're just going to take her to the hospital. It was so heartbreaking. Like, oh my gosh, she's probably petrified. And she was, and they ended up bringing her there to the hospital so that she could, physically see me. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that was one of the times that they weren't sure that they were talking about, last rites and that sort of thing. And, but it wasn't my time. And that's what I kept saying, please heal me or I will do your work. I will talk about Lyme. I will help people. And I have, people have come into my inbox many times and say, I have this, and this symptom. And what do you think? And I say, you need to be tested. You need to go. You need to this. You need to this. You need to this. And, and I wouldn't have known a thing about Lyme had all of this not happened. So, like you said, maybe it's our calling, to wake the world up to what is the real epidemic.
Yes, honestly.
The real one
of everything. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's mind blowing to me. And then it makes me think, it has to be on purpose because there's absolutely no way that this many people have this and we're just all blind to it. There's just no way. I don't,
Mathematically speaking, it doesn't quite add up. That's for sure.
Yeah. There you go. It's not mathing. The math isn't mathing.
That's right. It's not mathing at all. It maths, but not by what it would be naturally mathing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But, and I would say that in my Lyme journey, probably the best thing that has happened from it is the people that I have met, the family that I have gotten, like the Lyme family, and just having that, I truly can't imagine what would have happened had I not had that, because I had no clue. I didn't know what book to look at. I mean, I just no clue. It's like, telling me to go fly an airplane. Like I just had no idea. And it was scarier because like I was saying, in my mind, I'm relieved because it's Lyme, but thank God I have these people that are telling me the truth, because what if I would have sat back and said, okay, well, it is, but there's nothing they can do. You hear what they're saying. There's nothing they can do. So I guess it's just my time. I don't know. What am I going to do? They're doctors. I'm just me. They're doctors. They know. And had I really just sat back and did that, I would have been an uglier outcome for sure.
Isn't that crazy?
But I didn't. And I crawled on my hands and knees to the bathroom and gave myself enemas in the bathroom of a nursing home. with the door locked. Yeah, thank God I did. But I, like I said, I didn't want to die and have my kids have to live on and not say. She did everything to live. So.
And you done it well. Look at you. Yeah. Like to think about how sick your body was, like I can see, I can feel it. Like I can see how sick you were, and just like that would have been really, really a lot to overcome. And so I'm so proud of you, because I know just my own level of where I was at was not that extreme, but it was pretty extreme, and it took every ounce of my being to get better. And everything that I had, every bit of wherewithal, every bit of knowing and not knowing and figuring out and researching and learning and just becoming truly your own best advocate. And you almost have to become like obsessed with it, because someone else is going to figure it out for you. And it's not like there's a manual per se. There's lots of bits of information, but we've touched on it. It's like no one thing works the same for everybody. And so everybody's body is different, and you've got to just figure out what works for you. And by the grace of God, I'm so grateful for you that you were able to get your life back, because people don't get it until they get it. And I often laugh, like sometimes as a society, maybe we've got things so backwards, like we want all these materialistic things and we want this and we want that, but like people don't quite get all of that stuff doesn't matter ounce if you don't have your health. If you don't feel well and you're not able to function, it doesn't matter what you have. It doesn't matter who you're with. It doesn't matter. Nothing matters. Like, and so this is a critical thing. And there's 400 to 500,000 people a year infected with Lyme and tick-borne illness in the United States alone. Like, how many people, as you've mentioned, are walking around feeling like poop that don't know and have no idea that it's this thing called Lyme
and their doctor's saying, it's fibromyalgia.
Or you're just getting older, or it's just stress, or
stress, or depression. You know, I think you're depressed.
Yeah. Well, that's what they told me. And I was like, you know what? I'm depressed because I feel like poop every day of my life. Like, I'm not feeling like poop because I'm depressed. You're not understanding. I don't feel well. And it's causing me to become highly depressed because I just don't feel well. Like,
and they don't get that part. When I was at the psych wards and they kept saying, no, we're not really seeing mental illness here. However, she does have this physical lupus going on. And so we don't really know. And the crazy thing is I was working at a 7-Eleven, like probably 10 years prior to that. And because they didn't have anything to link, I got robbed when I was at work at the 7-Eleven, like 10 years prior to, like, I was probably in my 20s or something. And I was going to school and I worked there at night. And that's what they reached out to. Oh, maybe it was the robbery and that's causing you to have anxiety and stress. I'm like, I was 10 years ago. I am sick. Like,
I'm past that point. Thanks. There's something physically wrong with me now.
But they didn't have, I guess they had nothing else to even reach to, because they knew that it wasn't mental illness, but they had nothing. So we're going to reach all the way back to this. And I remember thinking, no, I'm cool with that. Like, that's done. That's over. That's not bothering me. It's not keeping me up at night. I don't feel like I'm in here because of that at all. Actually, you're bringing it up more than I am. And I just don't feel good, and something is wrong. And I feel like it's not, something. I knew in my heart and soul that something was wrong. I knew it. And honestly, I thought I had cancer. I did. I had almost kind of diagnosed myself in a weird way. I'm like, this is not lupus. This has got to be a weird cancer. This has got to be some kind of weird thing. I don't know. But never, ever, ever, like I said, I didn't even know what it was. I thought that it was just like a little, get a little antibiotic and you'll be all right.
Yeah.
Had no idea what the beast that I was going to fight.
Meanwhile, it's the hardest fight of your life ever. And nobody to be even
And then
prepared
they call back and say, oh, you have babesiosis too. And that's the other thing I think that needs to change as well, that the co-infections have to be talked about a little bit more, because that doctors have no clue about that. They have no idea that there's a co-infection attached. And honestly, your co-infection may be what's your problem.
That's right. But
if you don't even know about it,
that's right.
Then what?
I've talked to people who only have one of those and they don't have Lyme.
That is wild too.
Yeah. Like people test positive for the COs and not for the normal primary Lyme. And
wow.
I appreciate all that you're bringing up, because you touch on a lot of good things just about mold and basic education on what Lyme and tick-borne illness really can do. Some things with the testing and how faulty that is. It's only maybe 65% accurate at best. The bullseye rash, only, 35% of people, if that, get that rash. And just so many of the misconceptions about it and lack of knowledge on behalf, no offense to them, but most Western medicine doctors just truly don't understand what this really looks like or what it can do to people. And so
they said that they study Lyme disease and tick-borne illnesses for 1 week in medical school.
My dad's retired, and he said they spent a half an hour in medical school. Yes. So I don't know, maybe it's longer now, and maybe we should be encouraged that it's a week versus a half an hour, but it's taken people a lifetime just to understand the impact of what it does to them. How can they come even close to understanding what it looks like in a week's time? It's specialty all in of itself that probably takes decades for a Lyme literate physician to really get to the point they could call themselves Lyme literate.
Right. And then they threaten to take their license and all of that garbage.
Yeah.
The Lyme literate doctor that I had, he had taken his, I think twice they had taken his, and he had to go and fight. He's like, I've been to the medical board, so many times. And that was a whole fight too, because, my dad was very much like, well, he's the doctor and he knows, and you're just the sick patient. So he's going to, talking about like what the other doctors would say, and then I go see this Lyme literate doctor who doesn't take insurance. And so that's automatic red flag for your family who's going, huh? What? So we're going to pay cash to this guy? Who is he? And you're, I'm like deathly sick, trying to say, just please, just give him a try, please. It's like, please. And thank God that he did. But I remember, like it was like an ongoing, like, beg of please. And, let's just go to, another doctor that takes your insurance. And no, I need to go to this guy. And thank goodness I did. But that's got to
hugely.
That's got to change too.
There aren't any doctors that take your insurance. People
no.
That's right.
They won't take your insurance, and now you got to pay cash. And who's got that type of cash? My first appointment at that Lyme literate doctor was $800 cash. $800. Now that was, he did like crazy amount of labs, and he did the live blood under the microscope. I forget what that's called. But so he did do a whole lot of stuff, but still I didn't have that. Thank goodness my dad was able to help, but just the average person to say, I'm deathly sick. And most of the time you're not working at that point because you're deathly sick. You're not getting Social Security because you already know that's not going to happen. And so it's heartbreaking to see the people that have to go, and then they're living in their car because they can't live in the mold because their Lyme is exasperated. And it's just one big circle of stuff that needs to be fixed.
Tremendously. The whole cycle. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
From start to finish, it absolutely needs to be done differently. And hopefully,
and I've gone to DC, and I've gone to the CDC in DC when they do the Lyme rallies and fought, and it's actually heartbreak. encouraging, don't get me wrong, but it's heartbreaking because we can't even have normal rallies because so many of the people with Lyme are so sick.
I know.
So we can't even have a normal numbers.
No.
So I don't know. Something's got to change. Something's got to give. But first and foremost, people have to understand that you can heal. So
that's right. And I appreciate you being here to share that so that people can understand that. And again, all of the things that you have brought light to will help people along this journey just to understand, because if they're at the beginning and they don't really know anything about anything, you've shared so much about that. If they're at the end and they have learned a lot, this will resonate very well with them and they will understand. And it's unfortunate that it's going to take grassroots efforts like ours, maybe to change the narrative and to change how people are looking at this. But I'm just so thankful. I know how thankful I am to get my life back and my ability to function and to no longer be a zombie. Like, again, that's what I tell people is I was a living, breathing zombie.
Yes.
I had no brain.
I don't know who she is. Yeah.
Yep. Wasn't able to function, wasn't amongst the living. I was just barely getting by. And to come full circle, to feel good again, to feel well, to be like, I'm healthy. Whereas before I was like, I know I'm dying. I mean, I know we're all dying, but like I was dying not the right way. But
when you can actually feel your body like dying, it's just
scary. Especially because you were about the same age as me when it was going on, like in our mid to late 30s when it started.
It's like deathly. It was so scary, and scary that, who's taking care of you doesn't know about it. It's all kind of scary. And then, you feel all these weird things, and my brain just hurt. I remember my head just hurt all the time, and nothing helped. Nothing ever helped. My head, I remember that head pain. That's something I'll never forget for sure. That head pain. But just, you're right. It's like zombie. You are not in there. And that's why I try to tell, when I talk about that time frame, it's like almost visiting another whole lifetime ago. It's like, I guess that's what they call depersonalization or something. I think there's a name for it, but you actually don't feel like yourself. And that's the only way I could describe it, is like the curtain opening like that, because that's exactly how it felt. Like when people say 1 day at a time, 1 minute, 1 second, it is literally 1 minute, 1 second where you're like, okay, it's Tuesday and it's Tuesday night. I've made it through Tuesday. Okay. And it's truly how you have to live.
Right. I made it up the steps. I was able to walk up the steps. Yes. Yes.
Oh my gosh. And every single day. And so clearly you're going to be depressed. You're going to have anxiety because look what you're going through, but don't blame it on that.
No.
And here it is, like I said, if somebody would have tested me years ago, who knows? And the kids are heartbreaking too. All the kids that are going to have to go through. So, and also the other thing that it has woke me straight on up to, like health and natural health, wellness that I never knew before. Actually, this whole ride was my opening of learning about medications and learning about big pharma, like all of the things. That was the beginning of my awakeness. So now I make colloidal silver, and my whole family and we all take it. And I make some other things, some stabs and stuff. But, you start learning about, pharma, and you start learning about natural stuff, and you start learning about what's, and I don't think that would have really come to light had I not been forced to learn about it, and in the aspect of I'll do anything. What do you want me to do? I'll do it.
Exactly.
And you do. I refused their food. The last probably week I was there, it was like close to Thanksgiving. Oh my gosh, I just thought of something. I came home on December 1st, 2016, and today's the 2nd.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
That's crazy. Yeah.
7 years later, here you are.
Yeah. Wow. Now that just blew my mind. I just happened to think of that. Like, oh my gosh. So it's been 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Yeah. 7 years. 7 years is when I got out of there. But when I left there, like that final week, I was like, I'm not going to eat their food. I didn't want to put anything bad in. I was like, no. So I was just doing like the meal replacement. Like, no, I was so afraid to go backwards. I was so afraid. So I just went like, no. And then after I got out, it took me a little while to kind of, get back in the motion. It was still months before, because it was, my body took so long to kind of get back in the motion of what do we do? Because we've been asleep for a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
But detoxing is such a huge thing. Like I said, that year of no period and no bowel movement to 2 detoxes and then having it happen, that I was a true believer at that moment.
Yeah. I'm glad that
point. That was a huge turning point. And like a lot of like natural people have told me, that's what you probably opened up one of those pathways that were closed. But man, it was a ride. It was a ride.
Thank God you made it.
I know. I'm glad I made it too. And I think that, so now, I told you about all the hours that I spent with Jesus in there, because it was just me and him in those balls for many, many, many days. And I remember saying, I'll do your work and I'll do this and I'll do this. And so since I do go out, and I go out in the street, and I take care of people in the street as much as I can, like whatever they need. And, sometimes they'll ask me, when did this start? How did this start for you? And so then when I tell them, I just feel like he gave me my life back. So I want to do his work, but we got to get this Lyme thing, taken care of. Yeah. Some kind of testing, something. It would save so many people. So many. Hugely. Especially because if we could treat it early, and not let it get so bad.
Exactly. Like 70% of people catch it right away, have no long-term effects. Like let's try for a little better at that, and you touch on a population that I think of often is the people on the streets, because I think they're so much more susceptible being outside more often. They don't really have access to shower all the time. That's what they say is coming out from outside, shower within 2 hours. Well, those people don't really have that choice a lot of times. And many times, I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like a lot of times homeless people more have a tendency towards mental illness. Well, hello, maybe they all have Lyme because they've been hanging outside getting eaten alive. Have we considered that? And it's somebody I know does like Blankets for Hope. And I've said to him, I'm like, I wonder if we could treat them with permethrin, because they donate blankets to homeless people and stuff. Like, they should really try to treat all those blankets with permethrin and before passing them out. I'll have to see if I can't follow up with him.
That is a great idea, because you know what? You're absolutely right.
Just something, anything to give them some kind of defense against it, because it's just, they're so susceptible.
And I can't even imagine what kind of bucket they would be thrown in if they walked into an ER. you know?
Exactly. It's just probably not a very
mental illness, probably mental illness or drug addiction. They love that one too.
How do they fix themselves? How do they afford the treatment? How do they, that's the other thing. It's like, it's just this horrible space that people get lodged into. And you and I know from living it, how horrible you feel. And it just, that's not fair. It's cruel and unusual punishment for a human to have to experience.
1,000%. It is cruel and unusual punishment. Absolutely. It's inhumane.
It is.
It is. It's inhumane to make somebody think that they're crazy so that, you know, that you can fill your narrative that Lyme is nothing.
Yes.
Because you don't know. That's
exactly.
it. The only thing is you're uneducated. That's the only part.
Exactly. And it's
because
okay.
if you knew what we knew, and as a good doctor, you probably would do something, hopefully.
Yep. Because the ones that have lived it and know it or have seen family members go through it, those are the ones that you need to find, or the lighter ones, because they understand. They've lived it too. And unfortunately, as we say again, coming back to that, you don't get it till you get it, whether you're a doctor, whether you're a regular person, whether you're
it's so true.
Whoever you are. So again, I do appreciate your vulnerability and your willingness to share more about your story. Yeah. And I'm just like honored to know somebody who's been as sick as you, who has come out relatively unscathed at the end. How are you feeling now, by the way? Like, would you say that you're 100% back to yourself? Are you maybe like 80%? Do you think?
No, I would say I would say maybe 90. Because I still have, like days that, like my face will get, I don't even know. It doesn't really get, like I can feel the difference in it. It's kind of palsy-ish. It's just like a weird feeling I get in my face. And then some days the fatigue will hit me a little bit harder. But I mean, overall, I mean, I'm good.
Yeah. Night and day.
But if I had to put a percentage on it, I would say probably 90, just because I still have those kind of lingering symptoms. Okay. But I mean, I'm good. I'm good.
Yes.
I'm good.
Yes, absolutely. I agree wholeheartedly. And are you still like supplementing and doing things to help? Yeah.
Yes, I still supplement, and I do the mushroom microdosing right now. I'm doing that. So it's 6 mushrooms that I do. And then, of course, we do the colloidal silver every day. I do that. And I think that has been a huge, huge part of my healing as well, because of it acting as an antibiotic. And if something did come through the pathway, maybe that, can cut it off before it can get going. I'm not sure, but I have been okay since I have taken that pretty normally. So I think that, but like I say, everybody's completely different. But I think that has been my kind of niche, having that to take. And I take it every single day. I take it in the morning and I take it at night. Now, when I was in the nursing home, they had, there was like these detox sprays, and one was glutathione, one was a detox, one was silver, one was, I think it was brain support, if I remember right. And it was 4 in a thing, and it used to be called Lyme support, and you could get it from Amazon, but I think it was like through, I forget the company, RNC or something like that. But anyway, in the nursing home, when I was getting anything and everything, and so I tried that. So then that was like the first time that I had silver, and I just kind of stayed with it from that point. But I think that those sprays were, a huge part of it too.
Yes.
But so that's what the regimen that I'm on. I'm not on like a hardcore like paleo like I was when I was diehard trying to stay better and be better. But I do try to stick to it as much as possible, as far as staying away from sugar, like anything that can kind of throw me or rock my boat. I'm like,
yes.
No, I'm good.
I'm good. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah,
I have enough of that.
no. So I'm not like strict, but I'm not, just anything either.
Goosey. Yeah.
Yeah, no. I do. There is things that are different. Like I noticed that if I don't sleep at night, then the next day, like my brain feels very like weird. I don't know if that's from the lesions and all of the things that went on in the brain, but as long as I can like get a decent amount of sleep, and it's almost like my body has kind of taken like a slam injury, and because it's brought me back, it's just I kind of have to, keep up with all of the things to keep it together.
Yes. Yes.
But as long as I do that, for the most part, I'm pretty good. I mean, I think so. I haven't, really had a bout with anything. Truly, praise God, I really haven't.
Beautiful. Yes, beautiful. Let's hope it stays that way. That's the idea.
Right.
It's like you get all the static out, and you're in a good place of pretty much like homeostasis, and then you just have to maintain the homeostasis, and you just have to give yourself the little bits to keep yourself in that space, and then generally things just kind of roll off you, and you don't have to really deal with anything anymore.
Yeah. So I hope that everyone that listens to this knows that there is truly light at the end of the tunnel. Even if you are laying on that bathroom floor tonight or today or whenever you listen to this, just know that I promise you there is light at the end. There really is. Just have to like find your puzzle piece that you're missing. And as soon as you do, then things will all start coming together.
Yes,
I truly, truly believe that. It's just that beginning frustrating part. And I think that, so many people, we have been so conditioned since we are children that anything that happens, run to the doctor, Your eye hurts, go to the doctor. You're sniffly, go to the doctor. You have a fever, go to the doctor. And we've been so conditioned in that. So then when you have a doctor standing in front of you and saying, blatantly lying to you and saying, oh, that's not what that is, that's that. Or, and that there's nothing wrong with you mentally, like we were just saying. And it's frustrating, but once you can weave your way through the chaos of Lyme and co-infections, then you find your puzzle piece, and then I feel like everything just kind of starts coming together. And once it does, it just kind of lines up. It's just getting to that part, getting there.
That's right. And that can take some time.
But that's going to take some time. And I have a friend of mine from high school, and he has had some kind of weird symptoms. And that's the first thing I said. Let's get you tested. And I think he just sent his Igenix out not too long ago.
Good job.
But, it's like one of the first things that I think of now, like you were saying. And it's, if that hadn't happened, I would have never known to even mention that. But it's like the first thing that comes to my mind, even if I see people like, one of the maintenance guys that works where I live the other day smiled, and his smile was kind of crooked. And I wanted so bad to say, like, how are you feeling? Is that Bell's palsy? Because I think that's a huge one for Lyme.
Yes.
The other diseases don't get as prominent,
Correct.
So I don't know. Like you said, we have some grassroots work to do on the back end. And some of us that have made it to the other side are the ones that are going to have to do the fight. And that's okay too.
That's right. We get picked for a reason. We're strong. We can survive. We can do this, and hopefully help others get there as well.
Yes. Like, I truly believe, in the Bible where he talks about my chosen ones. And sometimes I truly believe that that's, to take us to the point of break. and then, bring us back. So, I hope that some of the knowledge that I have learned, I can help people to, if not anything, learn about it so that you can, figure out what you need to do to get better and stay better too.
Yes.
A lot of people, I feel like if they can get with someone that, like one of us, like somebody that's had it or knows about it, or the Lyme groups, or, something of that nature, and just start learning, I think it would help so many people, even if they didn't, have it, but just to know, if your child comes in and has a tick on them.
That's right.
So
that's right.
We got our work cut out for us, but
we do.
That's okay.
But
that's okay. I'm up for the challenge.
You and me both. Fighting gloves are on.
That's right.
We can do
all
this.
We want is a little testing.
That's right. Just accurate testing and maybe some insurance culpability to cover treatment. That's small to ask for.
I mean, really. Yeah, I think that it would save so many people if they did that first lab panel and added Lyme and tick-borne to that very first one at the ER. Can you imagine the amount of people we would save?
A lot.
Well, that's it. Yes. That's the fight.
That's right. And we'll get it. We'll do it.
We'll get there. Absolutely.
That's right. Because we're some of the most determined, perseverant, resilient, never quit type of people ever, because we've had Lyme. So they should know better. We aren't going down without a fight. Wrong population.
That is so true. Absolutely.
Yeah. Aww.
Yeah, we are not those people. Don't worry.
We don't roll over easy.
No, thankfully.
This has been so enjoyable, Quinn. I really appreciate you and just sharing this. And it's been a delight talking with you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Yes. And if anybody wants to reach out to me, have questions or anything, I'm always an open book.
I appreciate that as well. I usually like to include that if people are okay to contact you directly, and you're on social media. So I would figure as much, but perfect. Awesome.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
All right, girl. Yes. Thank God you for having me.
My pleasure.
Yes,
Thank
God
you.
Bless you too.
Yeah.
All right, sweetheart. I'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Thank you, Quinn.
All right, honey.
Bye.
Bye.